At this point of the morning, you have taken in a lot of information about the heart behind church-school partnerships, and now you're probably asking yourself, what does a partnership look like in reality? When we put our boots on the ground, what exactly will our boots be doing? And that is what I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about. Before I give you specific ideas that churches and schools have been implementing to meet their community's needs, I wanted to give you just a few words and ideas to keep in front of yourself and your team as you serve. And those words are listen, empathize, and learn. We want to listen to your school and their staff. We want to empathize with the school's circumstances, and we want to learn from the school about their culture and their climate. We believe that it's so important to do those three things when we're partnering with a school and our community. So let's focus on that first word, listen. You may have already spent some time talking to the schools in your district, or maybe you're eager to start that conversation. And as an organization, we spend a lot of time talking to different schools and different school districts, and we hear a lot about the needs that they have. And so I wanted you to take just a few moments and think to yourself about what you already know might be needs in your district or with your school, or what you think might be the needs that are present in the district that you plan to work with and the school that you plan to partner with. For some of you, this may be an easy question to answer, and for others, it may have felt more like you were guessing what the needs might be. That's okay. Focusing in on listening, no matter where you are in the conversation, is a great place to start. By doing this, we are continually reminding ourselves to lead from a place of humility and to check for and deal with the biases and preconceived ideas that we may have. When we first listen and then move to empathy and learning, those next steps become more natural for us to take. And that really is the goal of our partnership. It's to move. It's to move from doing for to being in relationship with. The distinction between these two ideas is an important one. In doing for a partner, we are oftentimes placing ourselves and our church in the driver's seat. But when we move to being in relationship with our partner, we're reminding ourselves that relationship is the goal. The actions we take to meet needs oftentimes will look different and more personal when we begin to see our church as side by side with our school and not in front of the school that we're planning to partner with. Let's go back to those needs and ideas that you have heard or that you know your school district might be asking for support with. What we want to do in the next few minutes is talk about how we can take one of those ideas and move from it being a doing for perspective to a being in relationship with perspective. Let's take teacher support, for instance. A lot of the schools in our districts that we work with ask for teacher support in the form of encouragement and morale boosters. And one of the things that churches often do is begin to write notes to teachers. As an example of doing for, you could write generic thank you notes to every staff member. They all look the same and they're delivered to the school. How to take that to the next level of being with and being in relationship with a school and their teachers is to write thank you notes specifically by teacher name. Get a school roster, get to know the teachers, what classes they teach, what departments they're in, and write notes specifically to that teacher and continue that relationship back and forth of getting to know the teacher and writing notes to her specifically and continually. Another thing that schools often ask for are donations that help support needs they might have. And oftentimes a church will think in August about doing a school supply drive, and they collect traditional school supplies like pencils and notebooks and those sorts of things. And those are things that schools oftentimes ask for. But a way to move from doing for to being in relationship with would be to have a conversation with your school about their specific needs before you ever begin to collect things. You may find that the needs that your school have are very different than what you assumed they might be. You might have thought that they needed school supplies like pencils and notebooks when really they needed school uniforms or they needed socks. Again, it's moving from doing for and assuming what the school might need to being in relationship with and asking those specific questions. Another area is volunteering. Now, in the days of COVID, things look a little different with volunteering on campus, but we still are able to do some of those relational things and hope to be able to do more of those moving forward. And one of the things schools ask for is volunteers on campus. And a doing for perspective might be to provide a volunteer for a school event, which is a great thing and is often asked for. But when we want to move to being in relationship with, we may want to look at recruiting volunteers that could volunteer in a more specific way, such as mentoring or tutoring. Again, it's taking what we know is a need that we can meet for a school and changing from a doing for perspective to a being in relationship with perspective. We wanted today to be super practical for you and for your potential partnerships. And so we wanted to offer you these ideas and have this conversation, but we also want you to know that every month on our website, we offer toolkits to our partner churches that they can use to have specific ideas and specific next action steps that they can take with their school. For instance, in March, we have been talking all about joy and delivering joy to our partner campuses. And so there are examples of notes that you can use to write to teachers. There's specific verbiage that you can use. We want to be as helpful to you as you begin these partnerships as possible. And we want to give you very practical action steps that you can take. These are just a few examples to illustrate what a relational church school partnership can look like in action. We also offer action labs that you can attend to have a conversation with the district coordinator about the specific needs and the specific schools in your district.